Here are 10 beloved singers from The Voice who tragically passed away. They rose in front of millions, only to face the cruelty of fate behind the scenes. Their dreams were rising, their careers were blooming, and then everything changed in a single moment no one could ever forget. 10. Christina Grimmie, the rising star killed. After a concert, Christina Grimmie's voice was gentle, powerful, and unmistakably hers. Long before she appeared on The Voice, she had already built a global family on YouTube. Millions watched her sing in her bedroom, turning simple covers into soulful performances that felt larger than life. When she joined Season 6, coaches praised her control, her humility, and her natural presence. She was only 21, yet she carried herself like she had been performing for decades. But on June 10, 2016, everything changed. After performing at the Plaza Live in Orlando, Christina stayed behind to greet fans. She always believed in kindness. She always believed in connection. During that meet and greet, a gunman approached her and opened fire. Christina was killed instantly. She was 22 years old. The world reacted with shock. Vigils appeared in cities across the country. Tributes flooded social media. Her death sparked serious conversations about artist security, mental health awareness, and the responsibilities of venues. Adam Levine reached out to her family personally, offering support during their darkest moment. Christina's legacy did not fade. Her music surged again. Her old videos, recorded with nothing but a camera and a dream, gained millions of new views. She became one of the most beloved and heartbreaking talents to ever appear on The Voice, a reminder of how fragile brilliance can be. But Christina's tragedy was not the only heartbreak the show would face. Another rising voice carried a struggle that ended far too soon. 9. Anthony Riley, a fan favorite, lost to inner battles. Anthony Riley was the kind of performer who could make an entire city stop and listen. Before The Voice, he was known as a street musician in Philadelphia. People heard him in train stations, parks, and sidewalks, and they stopped because his voice carried something sincere, something real. When he auditioned for Season 8, every judge turned for him. His blind audition became one of the fastest turns of the entire season, a moment that showed how powerful he truly was. But while the world saw a rising star, Anthony was fighting a battle within himself. Addiction had been a silent weight on his life for years. Instead of hiding it, he did something incredibly brave. He stepped away from the show to seek treatment. He was honest, he was vulnerable, and fans admired him even more for choosing his health over fame. In June 2015, Anthony was found dead by suicide at just 28. His passing devastated the community that had grown to love him. People who watched him perform in subways wrote messages in chalk on the sidewalks where he once sang. His blind audition remains one of the most replayed early season moments, a reminder of a soul who had so much to give but carried more pain than anyone realized. As the world mourned Anthony, another story from The Voice revealed how silent battles can swallow even the brightest talents. 8. Beverly McClellan, a rock soul taken by cancer. Beverly McClellan was unforgettable from the moment she stepped onto The Voice stage in Season 1. She had a shaved head, bold tattoos, and a voice that felt raw and honest. While everyone else worried about image, Beverly worried about truth. She treated every performance like a conversation with the audience, letting her gravelly tone and blues style create moments filled with emotion. She made it into the top 4, becoming one of the first fan favorites in the show's history. But years later, Beverly faced a fight no voice could outrun. She was diagnosed with stage 3C endometrial cancer. The illness progressed quickly. On October 30, 2018, she passed away at age 49. Fans remembered her as someone who never pretended to be anything but herself. Musicians respected her fearlessness, and the Voice community still views her as a cornerstone of the early seasons, a performer who helped define the show's authenticity. Yet the heartbreak did not stop there. The Voice had more stars whose lives ended long before their songs should have. 7. Janice Freeman, a voice. Silenced by sudden medical complications. Janice Freeman came onto Season 13 with a story that already carried heartbreak. She survived lupus. She survived cancer. She survived hardships that would break most people. Yet when she sang, she looked unshakable. Her voice was strong, warm, and full of emotion. Miley Cyrus, her coach, supported her not just as an artist, but as a friend. Janice's life took another tragic turn in 2019. She developed a blood clot that traveled to her lungs, causing sudden complications. She passed away at only 33 years old. The news devastated fans across social media. Miley Cyrus stepped in to help her family financially, proof of the bond they built on and off the stage. Janice's performances still trend among emotional highlights of the franchise. Her story remains a reminder that strength does not always protect us from fate, but it inspires others long after we are gone. And just when fans thought they had endured enough loss, another tragedy shook the community. 6. Nolan Neal, a dual-show talent gone. Too soon, Nolan Neal had the rare distinction of appearing on two major shows, The Voice and America's Got Talent. His talent was undeniable. His songwriting was emotional, honest, and deeply personal. But Nolan was carrying battles from childhood, including trauma that later pushed him into addiction. He spoke openly about it, hoping his story might help others feel seen. In July 2022, Nolan was found dead in his Nashville apartment. He was only in his 40s. Fans who followed his journey believed he was on the path to recovery, making the news even harder to accept. His original songs, especially those he wrote during moments of clarity, became tributes to his resilience. Nolan's voice carried pain, hope, and raw humanity. His story remains one of the most emotional in the voice community, a reminder of how heavy invisible battles can be. But the stories continued, because behind every spotlight is someone fighting a battle no audience ever sees. 5. Ryan White Maloney, a Season 6 talent lost in 2025. Ryan White Maloney had a voice that carried grit, warmth, and honesty. When he appeared on Season 6 of The Voice, his rock country tone stood out instantly. He had the ability to take songs people had heard 1,000 times and make them feel brand new. Viewers connected to him because he sang like someone who had lived through every lyric. There was pain in his voice, but there was also heart. Behind the scenes, Ryan was known as one of the kindest contestants of his season. Fellow artists described him as humble and gentle, the kind of person who made others feel safe in a competitive environment. Producers spoke about him with affection, remembering how he always encouraged younger singers and helped calm nerves backstage. He left a mark not just with his performances, but with his presence. In January 2025, the music world received the heartbreaking news that Ryan had died by suicide at age 44. The Las Vegas authorities confirmed the details, but no report could explain the weight he carried inside. Tributes began pouring in instantly. Contestants from multiple seasons shared videos, old rehearsal clips, and personal messages. Fans who had followed him for years wrote about how his voice helped them through their own struggles. Ryan's passing revived important conversations about the mental health of performers. The pressures of music, public attention, and personal battles can collide in ways that never show on stage. His loss reminded people that even the brightest voices can be fighting silent storms. Ryan will always be remembered for his raw talent and the kindness he offered freely to everyone around him. If stories like these move you, take a moment to subscribe so more people can discover the lives behind the voices. The pain behind these stories only grew deeper as another beloved singer faced fate too soon. 4. Natasha Stewart, the Australian beacon of strength. Natasha Stewart walked onto the Voice Australia stage in 2019 with a smile that lit up the room. She had flawless vocals, crisp tone, and a stage presence that felt effortless. But what touched people most was her strength. Natasha was battling breast cancer while competing, undergoing aggressive treatment that would have made most people step away from everything. Instead, she stepped toward the stage, toward the lights, toward the music she loved. Her coaches and fellow contestants admired her resilience. She performed with emotional clarity, hitting every note, while carrying the weight of chemotherapy. Viewers across Australia fell in love with her determination. She showed people that hope and pain can exist together. Even when her body was weak, her voice stayed strong. It was a reminder that music can be a form of survival. In January 2020, Natasha passed away at the age of 43. The news devastated Australian audiences who had watched her fight so bravely. Tributes came from celebrities, musicians, fans, and even hospitals where she had inspired other cancer patients during treatment. Her performances continued circulating online, gaining new viewers who were moved by her courage. Natasha's story remains one of the most powerful ever seen in the Voice franchise. She competed not because she expected to win, but because she wanted to live fully while she still could. Her voice continues to be shared across Australian music circles, a symbol of light for people facing their own battles. Every season brought unforgettable voices, and sometimes heartbreak followed long after the applause faded. 3. Keith Flint, global icon and The Voice UK mentor. Keith Flint was a name that rocked stages long before The Voice existed. As the frontman of The Prodigy, he shaped electronic and rock culture across Europe, becoming an icon recognized around the world. But later in his career, he brought that same explosive energy to The Voice UK as a guest mentor. Contestants admired him for his authenticity. He spoke with honesty, guided with passion, and encouraged artists to perform fearlessly. His style was bold, but his heart was softer than people expected. He made young artists feel seen. He helped them believe their individuality mattered. His mentorship added a rare edge to the show, bridging mainstream television with alternative music culture. In March 2019, Keith was found dead by suicide at age 49. The news shook the global music community. Tributes appeared across continents. Fans held memorial runs. Fellow artists dedicated concerts to him. Across Europe, thousands shared stories of how his music shaped their youth and inspired their creativity. Even contestants from The Voice UK wrote about how deeply his guidance affected them. Keith's death opened a raw conversation about depression among high-profile performers. On stage, he seemed invincible, but off stage, he carried battles that no one could see. His life and legacy continue to impact both the rock world and the Voice family. From one tragedy to another, the losses remind us that talent never protects anyone from life's cruel turns. 2. Thomas Wells, The Voice singer, taken by a tragic workplace accident. Thomas Wells brought a warm, heartfelt tone to The Voice and X Factor stage, the kind of voice that made people stop and listen even before the judges reacted. He was one of those contestants who didn't rely on theatrics or flash. He simply sang with sincerity, and audiences felt it. His journey on X Factor USA didn't end with a championship title, but it did earn him loyal supporters, local fame, and a place in the Idol family of voices people never forget. But in November 2021, tragedy struck in a way no one could have imagined. While working at a manufacturing plant in Oklahoma, Thomas became caught in a conveyor belt accident. The injuries were catastrophic. He was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was irreversible. At just 46, Thomas Wells lost his life in one of the most sudden and heartbreaking incidents connected to any talent show contestant. The news stunned the X Factor community. Fans shared clips of his performances, remembering the gentle confidence he carried on stage. His family described him as someone who sang constantly, who loved deeply, and who always believed his big break was still ahead. His legacy now lives in every performance where his voice still echoes. Number 1. Bulelani Koyo, the South African gospel voice that inspired millions. Bulelani Koyo was a contestant on The Voice South Africa, whose gospel performances touched hearts across the country. He had a voice filled with soul and depth, the kind that made people stop and listen. Gospel music was not just his genre, it was his identity. He carried the emotional weight of every hymn and lifted spirits with every note. In 2022, Bulelani passed away after a long battle with cancer. The news brought sorrow across South African communities. Radio stations replayed his songs. Churches across the nation sang tributes. Fans described him as a light who brought peace to people struggling with their own hardships. He was viewed as a national treasure. Bulelani's story continues to inspire millions. Even after his passing, his hymns circulate through congregations and local broadcasts, keeping his spirit alive. His journey on The Voice South Africa showed the world that music can heal, uplift, and guide people even in their darkest moments.